Welcome, everybody.
I just want to chat a little bit about something that came across because I'm working on a module for a new course on bendology course, and there's a chapter on first and second degree bending, and then it occurred to me that there is a correlation between first degree bending and leg yields and second degree bending and shoulder in, or the real lateral movement.
So we can explain a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you found this really interesting.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it at lunch today, and we thought, let's do something on this today.
Yeah, so the first and second degree bending come out of 19th, 20th century German, Austrian dressage. You don't really hear about it anymore. At least I don't really see any references to it anymore. But when you read, like Waldemar Soynik, for example, you see a brief explanation. And Sigismund von Josipowicz, who was an Austrian cavalry general in the early 20th century, he mentions it. So it was kind of a common framework around bending to distinguish between first and second degree bending, and I find it useful, even though it's not really in use anymore. But the distinction is that in the training of the horse in the early stages, when they're not yet familiar with all the different aids and so on, the first degree bending serves to get the horse to yield a little bit to the inside leg and rein. So you familiarize the horse with the inside aids, you address the horse with the inside aids so that he moves a little bit away from the inside leg and rein, and then stretches the outside rib cage, the muscles on the outside of the neck and the rib cage and so on. And in that process, the horse then finds the outside leg and rein, right? So if he moves away a little bit from the inside leg and rein, he eventually finds the outside leg and rein. And once he steps into the outside rein, for example, then the outside rein can recycle the energy back to the outside hind leg, and it can half hold into the outside hind leg, right? And then you can complete your circle of aids. This I find applies especially to the stiffer side of the horse, where the horse likes to lean on the inside shoulder and hold his neck towards the outside or the head to the outside, where they're not easily bending to the inside. There, it makes sense to ask the horse to kind of move away. Easiest thing to do is to ride a circle and then enlarge. And as the horse enlarges and shifts the weight onto the outside pair of legs, he will start to stretch the muscles on the outside. The rib cage will swing out, and then a bend towards the inside can develop, and the outside rein can then communicate with the horse as well. So as an abbreviation, you can kind of remember first degree bending is inside leg, inside rein together, and then second degree bending is the famous inside leg to outside rein, right? So once the horse has arrived in the outside rein, you can make the connection, and you can then also come with your outside leg and catch the outside hind leg of the horse and direct the outside hind under the body of the horse. And then as I was reading that and writing about it, I was thinking, well, that reminds me a little bit of leg yield. And in a sense, the enlarging the circle is a little bit like a leg yield, right? Just on a circle line. And in the leg yield, the horse doesn't really bend properly in the whole body yet. It's like an introduction to sidestepping for the horse. And in the leg yield, you also ask the horse to move away from your inside leg, but you're not really catching the outside hind leg yet. You're not really insisting on proper bend. So the leg yield is really a stepping stone. It's an intermediate step. It's not an end in itself. It's not a movement you train as an end in itself. It's really something that is supposed to lead to the real lateral movements, right?
Which is biomechanically useful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it occurred to me that in the development of lateral movements, the Duke of Newcastle liked to use lateral movements on circles, and he begins with essentially a leg yield on a circle, right? It could be a small circle around a pillar, a single pillar. It could also be a big circle. And he asks the horse to move sideways so that each foot is on a separate circle, right? He even calls it like a circle on 4 tracks.
Do you want to show this?
Yeah, we have a diagram from Newcastle.
Can you do the share, please?
This one probably.
Yeah. Yes. And so, yeah, present. Yeah, there you go. And then there's the 3 pages.
Yeah, so that's the diagram that Newcastle has in his book, right? So the inside front is on the smallest circle, outside front second smallest, and the hind legs are farther out, right? And number 4, the outside hind has the largest circle. And Newcastle says that the body part of the horse that has the smaller circle has to support more of the weight. So by riding this movement, you exercise the shoulders, he says, and he says you're working both shoulders and only half the haunches, like the inside hind leg.
Yeah.
But the outside hind, he says, you can't feel under your seat. That kind of escapes. That's why you don't work that outside hind leg. And he even recommends that you keep your outside leg a little closer to the girth than the inside leg, because you're working with the inside leg, that addresses the inside hind leg.
Huh?
It is very, very interesting. He also says that he would ride the horses with a curb bit and a cavesson, right? And the cavesson to bend, and he says you bend the horse to the inside with your inside cavesson, and he describes how you have the inside cavesson rein in your inside hand, and you move it towards your outside shoulder, and you turn your fingernails up and so on. And that inside bending rein supports the sidestepping of the inside hind leg. It helps to move the croup out. And then the inside leg asks the inside hind leg to step out. And he basically explicitly says that you're not talking to the outside hind leg, right?
Yeah.
Which makes the whole thing into a leg yield, really. And the horse is not going to bend through the whole body if you don't catch that outside hind leg, if you just let that go, if you let it move away from the body, right? So let me see, we have a picture of
It's the next one, I think.
This is from Manuel Carlos de Andrade. That's a book from 1790. It's a Portuguese riding master. He was the trainer for the King of Portugal, but he uses parts of Newcastle's method. Like here, you see the cavesson rein. It's attached like a draw rein. He's bending the neck pretty strongly, which Newcastle did as well. But he also uses parts of de la Guériniere's training method, because he was younger than de la Guériniere, so he was familiar with both de la Guériniere and Newcastle. And here it looks like the angle of the horse is actually steeper. Like here it looks like maybe it's a 45-degree angle, something like that, right? It's a movement on 4 tracks, on 4 circles.
Yeah.
Here it looks like it's more on 2 circles. It looks like a turn on the forehand in motion, really.
It really does.
Right. So I'm always questioning a little bit. So how did they really ride it? Did they really ride it with that much angle? Or is that maybe just an artistic rendition to capture sort of the essence of the movement a little bit better? Because it contradicts the drawing here of the feet. So then it could be that they did both. I don't know. but they did this at the walk and the trot. Here they describe that in the
And
text.
just a note, we never ride the turn on the forehead motion at a trot.
Yeah, no.
It's dangerous.
Yeah. But so gives you a little bit of an impression, right? You see the inside cavesson rein, and then you see the the inside leg that can then ask the inside hind leg to cross. The rider is holding the outside whip a little bit lower, almost horizontal. They used to do that to help to turn the horse. If you show the whip in front of the outside eye, the horse will turn away from it. So that can replace the outside rein to some extent. But if he has the curb reins in the outside hand, which is what Newcastle did too, he recommends that you take the curb reins into your outside hand and then the cavesson rein into the inside hand. Then you could, in theory, frame the base of the neck so that the horse doesn't overbend the base of the neck. So you could frame with the curb reins, but then you could bend the pole with the cavesson rein. But the horses at the time had short, fat necks, so it was difficult to get them to become really supple. That's why they probably overdid that lateral bending a little bit. Well, we wouldn't do that today, right? So that's an exaggeration. But again, it could also be just an artistic rendition, to really show that they're bending. In real life, it may have been actually a little bit more moderate. You never know, right? Because we don't have photos or videos of the time. So that shows you that first degree bending, right? And the outside hind leg can swing away and step out. And then de la Guérinière came along and said, well, that's kind of inconvenient. That doesn't really work for me. to lose
You do you, but
exactly. So I said, it's better if you ride the shoulder in next to the wall and move the shoulder to the inside, but you catch the outside hind leg and you direct it under the body with your outside leg, right? And that's that very, very famous picture. You've probably all seen this before. L'épaule en dedans, right? The shoulders to the inside. And you can do this, of course, also in a shallow angle, in a steep angle, and so on. But for the true shoulder in, you need your outside leg and rein aids, right? You need to catch the outside hind leg especially and direct it under the body. And actually, I remember that Carl Mikolka was saying one time that the shoulder in is an outside spur exercise or an outside leg exercise. That when the horse is fully trained, you just have to kind of guard the outside hind with your outside leg, or keep the outside spur close, not touching, but close. And then the horse glides in his shoulder in, and then you don't really have to do anything else. You turn yourself a little bit and the horse goes, and you just guard the outside hind leg. And I find also from my own experience that controlling the outside hind leg is maybe one of the most important things in the shoulder, in that the outside hind steps under you and you feel like you can sit on it, and you don't allow the outside hind to step out, and you don't allow it to lag behind, but it really needs to step under you. Otherwise, the horse can't bend and the horse can't balance in the shoulder. And if you lose the outside
and you can't
hind
get
leg,
any lift of the forehead because the horse is escaping outside hind.
Very true. Yeah, they can only lift the withers and the thoracic sling if the outside hind leg connects to the ground and the weight, and you feel like you sit on it, right? If you can't sit on it, then the withers drop, the back hollows, and the horse won't bend properly. So yeah, I found that interesting, right? That you can see these echoes, this first degree bending, second degree bending, that the German and Austrians came up with in the 19th century or early 20th century. And in a way, it builds, I don't know how far they were even aware of that connection to Newcastle and de la Guérinière when they came up with that concept of first and second degree bending. But it's interesting because there's this functional biomechanical foundation, right, that underpins everything. And So once you have your so once the horse is yielding to the inside aids and stretches the outside, you can frame him with your diagonal aids. And what's interesting actually um, is that Newcastle used as diagonal aids the outside leg and inside rein, not inside leg and outside rein. And he introduces outside leg and inside rein with haunches in and then renvers, right? He did haunches in on a circle, he did renvers on a circle. And he says that when you ride around your central pillar and you have the haunches on the small circle, then they carry all the weight. Then in the haunches in, you work both haunches, but only one shoulder. Probably again because I don't know, the outside shoulder is on the biggest circle, and like in the shoulder in type or leg yield type movement, he said you work both shoulders and you lose the outside hind. You're just working half the hindquarters. And he says whenever you work your horse with outside leg and inside rein, bending inside cavesson rein, then you put the horse on the haunches. Then you're working the hindquarters, right? You're transferring weight onto the hind legs. And so I thought that was interesting. And Newcastle doesn't seem to mention inside leg to outside rein at all. At least I haven't found it. And he says that when you're riding haunches in, you're bending the horse to the inside. It will direct the inside hind leg a little bit outward towards the outside hind leg. And but in order to maintain your haunches in position, then the outside leg has to bring the outside hind leg across, has to bring the outside hind close to the inside hind, or so that it steps in front of the inside hind leg. So I find it logical, it works that when you ride a haunches in on a circle or a volte, you can feel how the horse has to sit and how especially the inside hind leg has to support a lot of the weight.
Yeah.
When I ride a shoulder in on a circle, or when I ride a turn on the forehand, I try not to lose the outside hind leg. So I differ from Newcastle in that respect. I want to feel like I'm sitting on the outside hind leg and get the outside hind to support the weight, and then the inside hind can cross, and the horse can then bend. So I find that more effective. So it's more like an actual shoulder on a circle.
So that the inside hind can engage.
Exactly.
Yeah. It has the freedom then to engage.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a horse that's stout and stiff and so on, maybe initially all you can get is a leg yield where the haunches drift a little bit, and maybe that's you have to take what you can get sometimes, right?
Well, even like the progression with a young horse,
exactly.
you develop the horse in stages.
Exactly.
The horse has to learn in stages.
Exactly.
You can't expect everything all at once.
Exactly. So it's a way to facilitate the development of the bend and the development of lateral movements, that you go through simpler stages that are in some ways gymnastically not as useful or effective maybe, but it's just a learning step, so you don't overwhelm the horse by asking for like a perfect shoulder in right away the first time out, but you give the horse a chance to develop the ability to bend, and then to bend and sidestep in little smaller increments. And so otherwise you could provoke big resistances too. So let me see, there were a couple of questions here. Frauke says, how do you turn your fingernails up? If you picture yourself holding the reins, you turn your wrist. And so all the authors, they always talk about the fingernails. So you rotate your wrist so the fingernails are turned up or they're turned down, and turning the horse and bending or positioning the paw, that you can, when you have the curb reins in one hand, for example, you can bend or position the paw by rotating your hand, and then if you rotate it like this and the fingernails go up, then you're shortening the rein here on the bottom. So my left hand, it would then be uh, the left, actually, depending on how you hold it, would be the left rein.
It does.
And the right rein would come in here, right? If you want to shorten the rein on top, you would turn your fingernails down and go like this, right? So some of the older books, they describe this in detail, how you turn your wrists and how you rotate to shorten one rein, lengthen the other when you have the reins in one hand. So yeah, and then Newcastle talks about that when you're bending, it's like if you hold like here in my left hand, the left's cavesson rein, and you want to bend the neck to the left, then you move your left hand to the right shoulder, to your right shoulder even, and lift or to turn the fingernails up, so it shortens that rein more, and you have the curb reins in the right hand then. So, and the curb reins and probably the right cavesson rein. Man, I've tried all these things too, and they work really well. So it's a kind of a 3-in-1 rein hold where you have the two curb reins and one cavesson rein in the outside hand, and then the inside cavesson rein in the inside hand, and then you can frame and stabilize the base of the neck with the 3 reins. And your outside hand stays over the withers, and then with the inside hand, of course, you can move, right? You can move it up and down and in and out and so on, and so you can isolate the stiff part of the neck. You can give flexing rein aids with a cavesson that can be effective for horses that have a difficult paw, that are locked up in the paw.
Yeah, it can help you prevent them from bending in the places you don't want them to bend, so that you can isolate the places you do want them to bend, which is, of course, the paw and not the base of the neck.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Exactly.
Uh,
And Elizabeth says thumbs to the outside. Yeah, if you turn your hand like this, your thumb would go away from the horse, right? And your little finger would go up towards your diagonal shoulder in that particular thing. Frauke says, how is he holding the reins? I mean, you can go back to the picture. Where did it go?
Hold on, I have to open it again. You have to close this. Because
yeah, goes away when you maximize it.
Yeah. So now to this.
Screen.
Present.
Yeah. So that's
Maybe the other one.
Yes,
There you go.
Can't tell really well. He actually looks like he has 2 reins in each hand. That's also an earlier stage. Later, you would have both curb reins in the outside hand, and then and the outside cavesson rein.
But this rein coming through from the girth through the cavesson ring to the bottom of his hand.
Yeah, that's the cavesson rein, right? And the
exactly.
curb rein, I think the left curb rein is in the left hand here. And then the other 2 reins are in the right hand. Newcastle describes that too, how you can ride with also the curb reins in 2 hands rather than in one. And those are the earlier training stages. And when the horse is more advanced, then when the horse is more advanced, then you can take the curb reins into one hand, and then eventually you don't need the cavesson rein anymore. The cavesson rein is really more for elevating and bending laterally for suppling the neck, and then eventually you don't need it anymore, like the ultimate stage. But even once they've reached the stage where they can be ridden just with a curb bit, then eventually you have to go back and re-supple the horse if, through daily riding, something stiffens up again, which happens, right? Then you go back and you tune the horse up again. So
revisit.
Yeah, exactly.
Normal. There's a question here.
So my answer is, yeah, if I use my outside leg during shoulder in, my horse goes more to a sideways travers. Is this the right feel? Then it's too much. Then you're using the outside leg too much, or you're bringing your outside hip back too much, so you're rotating from your pelvis. Um, if you drive in the shoulder in with your outside leg, the outside hind shouldn't start crossing, the haunches shouldn't come in, but the horse should maintain the angle and so on, and the alignment on the two tracks of the shoulder in, and the outside hind should just step more underneath you and fill your outside seat bone a little bit more. So if the horse brings the haunches in when you drive with your outside leg, then you have to check your pelvic position. Maybe you need to bring your outside hip more forward. And you have to check the weight distribution. If you sit on the inside seat bone, you drive with your outside leg, that could also result in a half pass or in the horse going onto a diagonal or like leaving the wall, or maybe haunches in. So I suspect that you're sitting on the inside seat bone maybe too much in that moment. Um, and yeah, and that could be that your pelvis is not aligned quite right.
Yeah, these are
What's
all things to check.
Yeah, exactly. What's interesting, what I would probably do in that situation is deliberately ride a few steps, haunches in, and then back into shoulder in, back and forth a few times, so that you explore how much do I need to rotate, where does my weight need to be, and when I do these shoulder in haunches and things, I would sit on my outside hind for the shoulder in, use my inside leg a little bit more. Yeah, and then you have to check which rein you need to use in addition, and then shift your weight to the inside, bring your outside hip back, inside hip forward, outside leg. So little haunches in, and then go back and forth between those, and then you'll get a better sense of where you need to be, and which leg, which rein, where your weight needs to be, and so on. Yeah, and Laura says, when would you recommend using the cavesson with a curb versus using a normal double bridle? I mean, I use the cavesson relatively rarely. For a while there, I was experimenting with it and researching basically what it does. So I rode with it more. And I actually prefer cavesson and snaffle. That's what I usually do. But you can, of course, you can use cavesson and curb bit. In the Spanish riding school in Vienna, 120, 130 years ago, they did that to prepare the horse for the double bridle. So they would start with cavesson and snaffle, and then they would switch to cavesson and curb, and then eventually to bradoon and curb. So they would ride the horse really, really through and make the horse really, really supple with a cavesson. Before they would then ride with a normal bradoon and curb bit. So you can use it as a preparation for the normal double bridle. And the cavesson is really useful for mobilizing the paw, right? Because it addresses the bridge of the nose. So the horse can't really evade by opening the mouth, for example, and so it gives you a little bit different access to the pole, especially. And I find this combination very helpful on horses that have a wobbly base of the neck, but then a blockage in the middle or at the top in the pole. Horses that will always evade laterally by swinging their neck, sideways whenever you touch with the rein. Then you can frame the base of the neck with three reins, and with the cavesson rein, you can then try to address the locked up part and see if you can get that to move a little bit, like by flexing and straightening, and so on. So it's and what's interesting is that the cavesson and bit is extremely effective. So I would do it one day and then next day try again to see, what the result was. And then I found that on the second day I didn't really need the cavesson anymore because the horse was much more supple after one ride with the cavesson. And then maybe 6 months later I used it again. For a while there I was riding a Lipizan stallion with a pretty massive neck, where suppleness was a bit of an issue in the paw. And but yeah, it was super effective. Yeah, I really liked it. So anyway, Marianne says we'll start experimenting. Yeah,
Awesome.
let
Have
me
fun.
know how it goes. Laura says, thank you. I'm trying to decide if adding the cavesson will help work around tension, my young Lusitano. Yeah, starting the horse with cavesson and snaffle was a traditional way of getting them started, and especially in Spain and Portugal, they used to do that. Some riders still do that. Yeah, if you start with a cavesson, people say you can protect the horse's mouth a little bit. And that's true. And the four reins give steadiness, and you could start out with using more cavesson and having the snaffle there, and having a light contact with the snaffle reins, but without doing much. And then you can gradually start talking to the horse through the snaffle reins as well. It's not a bad idea. And it's perfectly classical. It's very traditional. It's old school.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And Frauke says, I've not tried cantering in the cavesson yet, but will be interested to see how May does with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be interesting. Yeah, you have lots of options to influence the horse with it too.
Yeah.
You can also support the upward motion in the first beat, with a cavesson rein. For example, when you can use the outside cavesson rein when the withers come up, you can give a little, just like a little lifting half hold, like this, and then release again. Just a brief moment,
Yeah.
and maybe step into the outside stirrup at the same time, and then you can create more lift of the shoulders.
Yeah.
So I used to do that kind of stuff too. It can be very effective.
Yeah. So if there are no more questions, I think we can, unless there's anything else you'd like to say about the original topic, the leg gilded shoulder.
Basically covered what's important.
Yeah, we thought that
So-
was interesting.
Yeah, exactly. I would just maybe sort of as a recap,
Yeah.
remember that you can develop bend by starting on a circle with inside leg and inside rein, moving the horse out into the outside leg and rein aids, and then you catch the horse with the outside leg and rein, and then you can let the horse feel your outside leg and rein, and you can gradually start framing, and then that's the second degree bending when you have the outside aids participating as well. So yeah, and then with the same kind of reasoning, before you ride shoulder in, yeah, maybe just start with a little bit of enlarging the circle, a little bit of leg yield on the circle, then leg yield on a diagonal, and then, as you feel that the horse is getting comfortable with it, start talking to the outside hind leg more through your outside leg with your weight, with your outside rein, and then out of that you can develop the bend, and then your leg yield turns into a shoulder in gradually. The more you can control the outside hind leg, the more you have it underneath you, the more it flexes, the more it will become, the leg yield will become an actual shoulder in. Oh, Joan. Mitchell says, does the cavesson have one ring or three? Where do the reins attach? You need one with 3 rings.
They do make them with one, but that's not what you're
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah, you need one with 3 rings. The traditional design had 3 rings, the
Yeah.
original one. I mean, even Newcastle has a drawing of a cavesson that's exactly like the ones we use today. It has not changed in 400 years. And you run your reins through the left and right ring of the cavesson,
Wanna
where you
show 'em the
attach
picture
it.
again?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we could. Hold on
it
here.
should still be the first. Yeah, there you go.
There. Oops.
And present. Yep.
Yeah, and so here it's just
That one doesn't
that's
show it.
just with a curve with a finished horse,
This one you can
and here you
see
see it. Yeah,
that there are
you
three
see the three
rings.
rings, right? There's nothing attached to the center ring. The center ring is for lunge
Is
line or
it possible
something.
to zoom on this? Yeah, there
Yeah,
we go. Oh,
okay.
there we
Yeah, you
go.
see it a little bit. Yeah.
There we go. So you can see that there's one ring here and one ring there and one ring there.
Yeah.
Of course, the cavessons look a little bit different now, but essentially it's the same design, that there's a middle ring and then which you use for lunging and so on, or for leading the horse.
Yeah.
And then the side rings are for riding with.
Yeah. And you can attach a pair of reins directly to the cavesson rings.
Here he has them set up
And
like a draw ring, but that's, you can, when we ride with them, we usually just attach the ring directly to the ring.
yeah, and that was actually Newcastle's innovation, right? He attached the draw reins underneath the saddle, right? So never between the front legs, never ever, but here higher up, right? And then he ran that rein through the ring of the cavesson to his hand. But you can attach a rein normally without, not as a draw rein.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's see them some more questions here. Frauke says, very interesting. I'm looking forward to the Old Masters course. Yes, for those who haven't grabbed it yet. And it will be available in the store next week.
Yeah, so Elizabeth Waddell
Yeah.
was saying,
Yes.
you mean spiraling in and out of a circle first before starting lateral movements? Not a bad idea. But how we usually introduce the lateral movements is through enlarging the circle. It's what Kalnikolka called the first test of the inside hind. It's a specific exercise where you enlarge the circle one horse's width within 2 strides, right? When the inside hind is in the air, 2 strides. When it's up, you send the horse out. Hips and shoulders move out at the same time, same distance. So you tend to do it on the open circle side, and then you can return to your original circle. And you can do that a couple of times, and that already has a weight shift to the outside. It has a little bit of sidestepping, but it's only 2 strides. That's a really, really good way to introduce it. That's the first test of the inside hind, and then there is the second test of the inside hind, which is like a mild version of Newcastle's circle or 4 circles, circle on 4 tracks. So if you could let the haunches yield a little bit to the outside on the circle, only needs to be a hoof breadth. It doesn't have to be wild and crazy like in the old engravings. But just asking the haunches to yield a little bit will already loosen up the hips, and the haunches then have a slightly larger circle than the shoulders, which has a nice suppling effect on the hindquarters. So that's usually how I like to start with lateral movements, and then when we lunge horses already, when they're young, we do turns on the forehand in motion to change direction. So they're familiar with a little bit of sidestepping from there, and then you can let it evolve from there into like a leg yield on the diagonal, and then a shoulder for, shoulder in, and so on. And on a circle, you can ask the haunches to come into the circle a little bit, bend to the outside. That can start as a leg yield and then evolve into a counter shoulder in. So that horses usually do that, relatively willingly too.
A couple more questions. Deanna asks this, I think I missed something. So when using the cavesson, are you using it with a bridle with a bit underneath? And
Yes.
how is the bit attached? She asked.
Well, you have your normal bridle, and then the cavesson is on top. Yeah, that's added on top. You can take the cavesson off if you need. You can keep it on. But yeah, so of course they make bridles that have a noseband that's like a cavesson nose piece, right? So that makes it really easy. Or a cavesson
Yeah.
where you can attach a bit
Yeah, it
do it
has
too.
a hanger for the
Yeah,
bit to
yeah.
attach to, which is
Yeah.
really convenient.
Yeah, that
But if you
is.
don't have that, you can just
Mm.
pair it with your pair the cavesson with your bridle.
Mm.
It works. You just
Yeah.
want to make sure the cavesson goes underneath the straps for the
Mhm.
bridle and not
Mhm.
over them.
Right.
You're touching.
Yeah. Yeah, and Anka says about riding with covers on a bit. How do you hold the reins when you go just along the arena? Are the reins from the bit and the outside rein of the covers always in the hand of the outside?
Good question.
Yeah, normally I actually like the Phyllis rein hold, so I would have the snaffle underneath and then the cavesson on top, because that's also how they're positioned on the horse's head. Then you can differentiate between the cavesson rein or the snaffle rein. That's pretty easy. And I like the 3-in-1 where I have the inside cavesson rein separate. If I feel like I need to check the paw and maybe see if I need to mobilize the paw, then I like the 3-in-1. And then I actually use the a variation of the Newcastle method where I have 3 reins in the outside hand. If I go this way, then I have 3 reins here in this hand, and then the inside cavesson rein in the other hand. And then because then I'm free to move and I can lift or stretch or do whatever.
Yeah.
And I can go hunting for resistances and stiffnesses in the neck and the paw. It's interesting work.
It is. We explored that quite a bit for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with difficult horses with difficult conformation.
Retraining horses.
Retraining horses, it works. If you have a horse with a well-shaped neck that's decently trained, you probably never need it.
Yes.
But
I know the horses we have now, it's like, why would we
exactly.
bother?
Exactly.
But yeah, we had a lot of retraining horses and some horses with some challenging conformational qualities. Good horses, but some issues. And so we explored all of these things from the classical literature and from our teachers to try to really resolve the issues and learned a whole lot in that process.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, Jane says my horse is very sensitive when I pick up the cavesson rein. Why does this happen even if I just have a really light in my hand? Some horses don't like the jingle of the ring
And
or
some
the
don't like the
movement.
feel
Yeah.
of the contact on the nose. Some horses are just very, very sensitive to it. Not every horse likes everything.
You could try padding the cavesson or getting
one with more padding, yeah.
Cavesson that is just reinforced leather, no metal on the nose.
Basically like a side pole. Yeah.
Maybe your horse would prefer that, but I've cavessons, depending on the shape of the horse's head or the length of the horse's head, sometimes they sit a little higher, and then the horses can see the movement or the rein or the movement of the rings, and then they jingle sometimes, and then some horses get really, I don't know, irritated by it and they don't like it. So, but yeah, could be that it's just a sensitivity issue that a softer cavesson would help. So,
She likes to knock things down.
mischief here
Yes.
behind me.
Then she acts all innocent, like, I'm not doing anything. What are you talking about?
So Ricky says the old master's course is inside Ritterize, isn't it?
Yes, I already answered that privately.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
If you have the Ritterize membership, either monthly subscription or you have a lifetime, you have the old masters in there. It's contained within that.
Yeah, Lisa Simon says, how much weight do you put into the outside seat bone when trying to load the outside hind leg? Will you keep 50-50 and slide the seat bone more forward? And is this done to balance the horse over 4 legs, as I thought you weighted the inside of the bend? Yeah, that's what we were taught, right? That you always sit on the inside. But if you're riding in the stiffer direction, the horse is kind of overloading his inside shoulder, and you sit to the inside, you could make that imbalance worse, right? So there it helps to shift the weight away from the inside front to the outside pair of legs. And you can do it with stirrup stepping. You could keep your pelvis neutral and just step into the outside stirrup. You could also send your own body weight through your outside seat bone more. let your own body weight flow through the outside seat bone into the outside legs. And you can add, or you could use a little sidestepping if you sidestep towards the outside, like this enlarging, for example, is a really simple and effective way to transfer the weight.
Let's get through all these questions because we have to end in 8 minutes.
Yeah, but
Okay.
let me see if
Yes.
there was anything I need to add.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you slide the seat bone forward, you're rotating your pelvis. That may have additional effects that you may or may not want, right? The horses will tend to rotate too. If you rotate your pelvis, if you bring your outside hip forward, the horse may bring
Haunches.
the haunches out or the shoulders out, right? If you bring your outside hip back, the haunches will tend to come in.
Yeah.
So it may or may not fit for what the horse is doing in that situation. So you can experiment that. I always do that too, like a rotate, shift the weight, and try to feel where is my horse most comfortable, where is he most balanced, where does he bend the best, where can he use his back the best. And so I sometimes go a little bit, back and forth with like a hint of haunches in, hint of shoulder, and sit on the inside, sit on the outside, where do I need to be? And sometimes you just have to shift the weight to the outside hind leg for 2-3 strides, maybe engage the inside hind. And when you feel like, okay, the inside hind has arrived, then you can sit on it, like the book says. So sometimes it's just a little adjustment, little correction, for an imbalance, and then you can go back to riding properly, Yeah, and Suzanne says, what did Shana mean when she said riding the turn on the forehand in the trot is dangerous? It's a movement you should do in the walk, because if you do it at in the trot at that speed, the horse is more likely to knock himself and injure his legs. And there may be shearing forces coming in.
It's most effective too. It can be
Mhm.
dangerous, but it's also most effective when you ride it slowly, measured, thoughtfully, mindfully. It's not something you should speed through.
Yeah. Yeah, Kali Kolka always mentioned that. He said you
Yes.
never ever ride this in the trot. You
Yeah.
only do it in the walk.
He was very adamant
Yeah,
about this.
it was one of his favorite movements, exercises, actually. He used that
Yes.
in pretty much every lesson, but it was always at the walk. Now, if you watch working equitation riders and bullfighters, they will canter turns on the forehand too.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how healthy that is, but you can see it. It's done sometimes.
Yep.
So, but I mean, if you collect the horse a lot, it may be safe. It may be okay.
Right.
So,
Right.
but if they're on the forehand, then it would be damaging.
I mean, think, a trot where the horse is really crossing over, this is going to be dangerous. If the horse is piaffing and you do, I don't know, I mean, theoretically, you could do a turn on the forehand in the piaffe. You could do, and yeah, you see the working equitation riders do it at the canter, but I've never done this. Okay, just a couple questions real quick. We have 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Frauke.
Frauke says, so the cavesson line comes between first finger and thumb. Yes. Phyllis, right? Phyllis, you have the top rein between thumb and index finger, and then you can have the bottom rein either underneath the little finger, or you could have it between little finger and ring finger.
What you mean by Phyllis. Phyllis is
No,
it's called the Phyllis hold because
yes,
he invented it.
James Phyllis was a famous English trainer, came out of Bushy's school, lived in Russia. He was the trainer to the Tsar in the late 19th century. Very, very famous circus rider. Did all kinds of crazy stuff like cantering backwards on 3 legs. So he was famous for doing all kinds of acrobatics. And he invented the so-called Phyllis hold. He had the curb rein at the bottom and then the snaffle on top because you can really differentiate. And the French still like to do that. They like to hold the double bridle reins like that. I do too.
Yeah.
I think it's a very good way of holding the reins because you can be very deliberate about how much snaffle, how much curb you use.
When you're doing something where you really want to differentiate the reins very clearly, it's really useful.
Yeah.
Marianne says, as I ride bitless, it's great to hear how you use the reins on the cavesson.
Jim says she backs off with it.
Yeah, some horses do. They just like the pressure on the horse. Like he said, experiment with the things he suggested. It might be that she doesn't like any of it, and then it's just not going to be something that's useful for her. every horse is unique.
Exactly.
Melissa says, I wanted to mention that I purchased and have loved the old Masters
Oh, okay.
program. Was so interesting to try some of the methods suggested. I love the history of it all. It is. It's
It is interesting.
very cool. If you guys are interested in more of that sort of thing, let us know for sure.
Yeah.
Joanne says Carl Hester used this rein hold on En Vogue. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Okay.
didn't know, but I'm sure he had his reasons. I'm sure it worked well for the horse if he did that.
So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody. And just a really quick little housekeeping note. Want to mention that we extended the enrollment window for bendology for 1 week, just to let you know it's in our store. If you were thinking about signing up, you can still get in. Just go find our store on our website, artisticdressage.com, and we'd love to have you. Thank you, everybody. It was wonderful to see you all and have this really interesting conversation, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.